Howdy folks, today we're going to be making one of my favorite Southeast Asian recipes, Vietnamese spring rolls. Now, you may be wondering what's the difference between a Vietnamese spring roll and the kind you find, for example, in Chinese restaurants, and one of the main differences is the Chinese ones are fried. The Vietnamese ones aren't, and they use slightly different ingredients. There are lots of different ways that you can make spring rolls. You don't have to use the ingredients I'm going to. You can use whatever you like, but I thought I'd show you these. What I'm going to be using are some very common ingredients like chives and basil and mint and bean sprouts and lettuce. Now, one of the things I've been doing is watching a lot of how to make these videos from actual Vietnamese cooks, and I think it's endearing because they're trying to communicate in English, which is not their first language, and if you've ever tried speaking someone else's language, you know it can be difficult. And so oftentimes they'll say things like, you can use this one and this one and this one, but they don't know the English word. Or they'll say, you want to use salad, because, of course, the normal way we eat lettuce in America is in salad. So I just think that's kind of cute. We're also going to be using cucumber, and I'm going to be using a little tofu. Oftentimes you'd have shrimp, but I don't really like shrimp, so I'm going to be using tofu instead. And also, this is just roast beef, which is something you actually find in these in Vietnamese restaurants. We're also going to be using some noodles, and these are what are known as Shirataki noodles. They're extremely low carb. This whole bowl of noodles has 2 grams of digestible carbs, so they're very, very low and useful on the diet. Now, the next thing, though, you'll be wondering if you've ever had a spring roll is what are you going to use for the wrapper? Normally, the wrappers are made of rice paper, which is not so good for a low-carb diet. What we're going to be using are these things that I found at my grocer's. They are soy wrappers, and they come in different colors. This package has one of each, so it's got 5 different things. They're flavored with different spices. All of them except the sesame one have only a single gram of carb per wrapper, and the sesame flavored one has 2 grams of carb for wrapper. So they're much better in terms of carbs than ordinary rice paper. And if you can't find these at a local Asian market or at your local grocer's, you could order them from yamamotoyama.com since 1690. I don't know how they got on the web back in 1690, but I guess they did. So we're going to be using those, and here they are. They just come in a stack like this. And also you're going to need a bowl of water to wet the wrappers in, and you're going to need a plate or something to assemble the spring roll. So that's what we're going to do next. Okay, the first step to assembling a spring roll is to get one of the wrappers and then to dip it in water. I know you can't see that, but dipping something in water is a fairly easy operation, and I trust you. So then we're going to put the wrapper on our plate and begin adding our ingredients. And so got some lettuce, or salad as some folks say, and we're going to put in some bean sprouts, just a few. We don't want to put too much of anything for a couple of reasons. One is we want the flavors and textures to be very delicate, not a lot from any one source. And also, we don't want to overload the wrapper. And the wrappers can be kind of fragile, and it can be a little tricky to get them done, to get them rolled properly. One thing we want to put in is a cucumber. You could also use a piece of celery for that. It helps give the spring roll a backbone, so it doesn't just flop over when you eat it. Okay. Then I'm going to put in my spices. Here are a couple of basil leaves. I'll put that's kind of a medium one. I'll put a large one and just use the 2. And then some mint. And I'm just going to put the mint in, stalk and all. And then I'm going to put in some chives. You could also use a green onion for this. And I'm going to put these down here so that they'll actually stick out of the wrapper once it's rolled. That's very common as just a bit of presentation. So then I'm going to start rolling, and I want to keep it as tight as I can without tearing because of the ingredients in it. I have to admit my own rolling technique is not yet the best, but I can make something edible anyway, even if it tears a little bit. So it can use a little practice. But there we have it. We've got a nice spring roll, and I'm going to put it aside with the others I've been working on, and then I'll make more and show you what the result looks like. There's one more thing we want to make before we serve the spring rolls, and that's some dipping sauce. It's customary to serve them with dipping sauce, and there are different ways you can do that. Sometimes you'll find fish sauce or oyster sauce that's used, but a lot of Westerners like me don't have those handy. You could also just use soy sauce, and if you wanted, you could mix in some lime juice or lemon juice and garlic and chili into the sauce as well. I'm going to show you something, and those are all very low carb. I'm going to show you something that's a little bit higher on the carb scale, and that is peanut sauce. There are different kinds of Asian peanut sauce you get. This is the kind, get it into the frame here, this is the kind that I use, or used to make this anyway. It's 4 grams of carb per tablespoon, and it's not the really sweet stuff. So what I did was I took 2 tablespoons and I put it in this bowl, and then I added some stevia or stevia extract, however you want to say it. It comes in these little packets, and I just put in a couple of packets, and then I added some additional water to thin the dipping sauce and just swirled it around with a spoon until it has a nice liquidy texture, and it's very sweet even though it's not excessively high in carbs. It is, though, this amount of it is 8 grams of carb because I used the 2 tablespoons of the peanut sauce. Another way you might want to try making peanut sauce is with unsweetened peanut butter and dilute it to taste. And you can add stevia or your preferred sweetener if you're using one to taste. So let's see what it all looks like all together. All right, and here we have it: low-carb Vietnamese spring rolls and dipping sauce. Hope you enjoy it. There are a lot of variations on this that you could use. You can use your own ingredients and come up with what you like, and I hope you'll give it a try. Bon appetit!